So this Maimer Beraishis, Be'etzem finishes the Hamshich of Tishrei Tazayin, which in a way is a Hamshich to the previous year of Tishrei Tezvav. Tishrei Tezvav and Tazayin are very similar Mamarim. The emes is that in Tezvav it wasn't just Tishrei. In Tezvav this went on through Shams Nevarchim Shvat, which makes it possibly one of the longest Hemsheichim. Longest, I don't mean by the amount of Mamarim, because you had Tishreis that had more Mamarim, but the longest Pashut in time. That a Hemshech by the Rebbe would go from Tishrei till Shvat was a Oisnam. It really happened, maybe another one or two times. But the Rebbe, the Hemsheichim, if in Klali would be the Sichas. The Sichas would, the Rebbe would start an Inyan by Febrengen, continue with the next Febrengen, it went on for a very long time. Mamarim, unlike the previous three Doiris, the Rebbe Marash, the Rebbe Shmos Eden, and the Frierdiker Rebbe, which started the Inyan of Hemsheichim, of speaking the same Inyan and one Hemshech going on for half a year, 2 years. There's Ayin Beis, 4 years plus. But the Rebbe, the Mamarim were more, maybe a month. Most Tishreis would actually be 2 Hemsheichim, the beginning of Tishrei and the end of Tishrei. The Rosh Hashanah Maimer and the Simchas Torah Maimer, the Maimer before and the Maimer after. But here the Rebbe went for a while. This was in Tesvav, so it was basically like almost the whole winter, fall winter of Tesvav, and then the Rebbe went back to it in Tishrei Tazayin. And you see these Mamarim were miyusid on these Mitzayin in Mar Mekoyim is the Mitzayin Tofresh Ayin Vav, so it's miyusid on the Hemshech of Tishrei Ayin Vav, which on that is miyusid the Hemshech of the Frierdiker Rebbe from Tof Reish Tzadik Dalid, which is miyusid on the Mamorim of the Rebbe Rashab. The Frierdiker Rebbe started the Hemshech and then stopped in the middle. And the Rebbe printed it in Tafshin Yud Aleph before there was Mekabel Nesias in Balshi Lagani. So the whole winter of Yud Aleph, the Rebbe gave out this Hemshech, Tzadik Dalid. And you could say this Hemshech was by the Rebbe, a Hemshech of Loi Zaz Mechavava. The Rebbe had a big Chavivus to this Hemshech. Actually, Balshi Lagani, Tafshin Yud Aleph, the Maskola Dike Sifim in the middle, Dalad Hey, or Mamish Hemshech to Tzadik Dalid. Then the Rebbe came back at different times, but Tesvav Tezayin is mamish in the, if you call it the Gedichte, in Yonam of this Hemshech. So the Frierdiker Rebbe started the Hemshech in Tzadik Dalid, and then he wasn't in Russia then. Tzadik Dalid, he was in Poland, and somewhere in the middle of the Hemshech, they came to Frierdiker Rebbe and told him the whole Frierdiker Rebbe it's too deep, and the Eilam's not Kalim, was a bunch of Polisher there. They didn't really know Chassidus. This is what you're telling to the Polisher, and he stopped. So the Hemshech stopped in the middle. Yeah. The Rebbe heard about it. The Rebbe was very unhappy, and the Frierdiker Rebbe was unhappy about it. There was a lot, I forgot the exact lashon, but the Rebbe said something to the degree of that we're giving diamonds or pearls, and the Olam says no. Like, what's how do you stop this in the middle? But Tezvav, so like I said, in Tavshin Tezvav there was a whole arichas, and then Tazayin, Tishrei. What's the Toichin Ha'inyanim? The Toichin Ha'inyanim is let's say this throughout Tishrei, and especially this Maimer. What would be the main Inyan? There's no wrong answer. Yeah. Something that's tachin, yeah. Something that's tachin. Yes, ayin, yes. Right. One of the yisoidus is that between one yesh and another yesh has to be an ayin be'emtza, from one entity to a new entity. There has to be an ayin. What's pshat? You could create yesh mi yesh, which we know as ilah va'ol, but then it's not a real new yesh. It's ilah va'ol, right? It's like the Terik Beis, the Shaykh Lemuna. You take kesef, you turn it into a keli. So so you didn't make a new mitzias. You just gave a new tzir. You were mitzayer it, and be'etzem. So erstens you just brought a new tzura. The chomer is the same, but not mer that the tzura already lies in the chomer. The chomer is already a keli to be makabel to any tzura. So the tzura is also there for attention. But yesh, to make a yesh mi yesh, to make a ganze nai mitzias, you need an ayin be'emtza. So that's bichlal. Then comes Chassidus and says the emes is not just yesh ayin yesh. Really, it's yesh ayin yesh. It's not enough that you get rid of the first yesh to go to the next yesh, because it's not really getting rid. If the word of ayin means okay, so the first yesh disappears and the second yesh appears, so you need an ayin be'emtza for the second yesh to appear. But it doesn't really work that way, because if that's the case, then what do you need the first yesh? Right? Are we saying that once there's ayin, once there's nothing, anything can happen, so any yesh can appear? So there's no connection between the new yesh and the old. Like let's say Reb Zera goes from Bavel to Yerushalayim. So you have to some the different Gersos, 40, 100 Kanesim, to forget everything you learned in Talmud Bavli in order to learn Talmud Yerushalmi. If that's the Shaila, why do you have to forget everything? Right? Imagine a kid going from 4th grade to 5th grade. So you tell the kid, in order to understand Haminiach, if you forget Ilum Metzias, am I a year off or something like that? Ilum Metzias is 4th grade. That's 5th grade. In California. So, right, so you'll say you have to forget everything you learned in Mesifta to go to Zal. The reason you're able to go to Shir Beis is because you learned in Shir Aleph and you prepare for Shir Beis. But here we say you have to forget everything. Why do you have to forget everything? And the Pashta Bir is Ben Miret Be'erech, then Farker, then level 1 brings you to level 2. But if you're speaking about Ein Arech, so here what you know, what he learned in Bavel is only going to confuse him, right? It's only going to confuse him what he learns in Yerushalayim. So you have to forget everything he learned in Bavel, which is Machshakim Shivani. It's a different style of learning. It's Erchezer. Forget about that. Now you're a Keli to learn Talmud Yerushalmi. Fine. So that's all over Chassidus. Yeah. But here's the Shaila. So are we saying that Reb Zera would have been better off if he never started off in Bavel? Meaning, so if the Varti has to forget everything, is to forget everything he learned before, come like a clean slate, so bring a kid to Yerushalayim. Yeah, the Medrash always have Yalda Yerushalayim, their goinus that they had. Is that the Vart of Etzem? He has to become nothing, and now anything can happen? Or there is Epis Kesher here, right? Meaning, yeah, the Signon HaLimud had to change, and that had to be totally put on the side. But he didn't come to Yerushalayim with somebody that doesn't have a brain, doesn't know how to learn, doesn't know how to open a sefer, right? Right? So we understand that we are coming from stage 1 and going to stage 2. Taka der be'ein haroich, and therefore there has to be a complete shvira, but ultimately one does lead to the other through the process of ayin. So why am I saying this? So when you say yesh, ayin, yesh. If the vart is, okay, there's one yesh. We want to get rid of the first yesh. We want to get to the second yesh, a new mitzvah. So just let the first yesh disintegrate. Let it disappear. Ayin, there's nothing here. And now the second yesh appears. But then you're completely disconnecting the yesh to the yesh. So let's in Chassidus. Remember that yesh, ayin, yesh. Who's the first yesh? Yesh amiti, atzmos. Who's the second yesh? Yesh hanivra. Everything else is ayin. So we're saying like this: the Aבצן from the Eibishter himself to Ishavos Olam Hazagashmi is the Chein Arech Mamash. So what do you do? So you bring about an ayin. What does the ayin do? It disappears. Behelim. Yeah, it's not real. It seems to lav kipshutei. But there's total helim. So there's no gili atzmos, there's no gili likos here whatsoever. So now what? So you're saying, so now just sort of the yesh. So sort of a yesh comes out of nowhere, it just appears. So you're saying, if there wasn't an Eibishter, where there wasn't the gili of alikus bichlal, there wasn't keich atzmos bichlal, a yesh, a nivra will just appear. You call it a yesh hanivra. You're saying it's created, so someone's creating it. Right? So obviously we're talking about the ayin is all in context of a process. Now because the ayin is context of a process, so therefore we say that the ayin splits into two. Because when we say it splits into two, what we're really saying is that the ayin is not totally ayin. The ayin has a asterisk. Yeah, it has a name to it. It has a toichen to it. What's its toichen? So there's two parts to its toichen, which is why we split the ayin. Ayin of the yesh amiti to the ayin of the yesh hanivra. Ayin of the yesh. So before we get into what it means, but on a very basic level, so the ayin of the yesh amiti is associated, connected with the yesh amiti, the first yesh. The ayin of the yesh hanivra is connected to the second yesh, and that's where the process happens. So it's yesh, ayin of the yesh hamiti, then ayin of yesh hanivra, but it's ayin of the yesh hanivra. And what are these ayins? So what exactly are these ayins? Or let's say in Sfas HaKabbalah, the map of Kabbalah. Yeah, what are the levels of ayin of Yesh Hamniti and Ayin Yesh Nivra? So in these mamarim, right, it didn't only start in Beraishit, it's also in earlier mamarim throughout the month, already in Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot. So he goes through many dargis. Right? This is what he does in Hemshech Hayim Beis. He goes through many dargis of how do we divide? In other words, where's that kav? Where's that line where we say on top of this is ayin of Yesh Hamiti, under this is ayin Yesh Hanivra. But the line constantly moves, right? We're constantly moving the goalposts. Where exactly is this? Because it's all contextual. And the Rebbe says, what's the Lefi in Yonai? Is well, what's the Lefi in Yonai? What's the Lefi in Yonai of Ayin Shesh Nivra, Ayin Shesh Amiti, Ayin Shesh Amiti, Ayin Shesh Nivra? No. Or take out all the dargas. What's the vert? What makes something ayin? They're all ayins. But what makes it ayin of the elyon, and what makes it ayin of the tachten? Yeah, pashtus. Why? Because total bittul means its whole mitzias is the elyon. It's scalabus in the elyon. It's spotless to the elyon. Its connection with the elyon. It's representation of the elyon, projection of the elyon. The ayin of the Yesha Nivra is here, be'etzem to service, right? To serve the tachtin. He's here for the tachtin. Which I guess sometimes the Lashon Chassidus is that in a way the ayin of the Yesha Nivra is lower than the Yesha Nivra. Say, if the ayin of the Yesha Nivra is here to give chayis to the Yesha Nivra, so be'etzem the ayin of the Yesha Nivra basically comes and says, "Who am I?" Kol Inyani is l'shamish in a way, and I'm here for the Yesha Nivra. So the Yesha Nivra, in concept, its purpose precedes the ayin of the yesh. Right, the Eibishter wants tachton. In order to be a tachton, there has to be a koyach that creates the tachton, that gives chayis to the tachton. Fine. So now, throughout the dargis and seder shtalshlos, so many dargis can be looked at both ways. On the one hand, it's tachton and it's elyon, right? In Lashon Chassidus, you have many memutzoim. So in general, Atzilus is the ultimate memutza. And whenever we speak about memutza, we start from Atzilus, because that's really where Atzilus on the one hand is Etzli v'samuch, Elikus. On the other hand, it's Yesh Hanetzel. There's already a Yeshus here. So when we look at Atzilus, we could say, okay, so Atzilus is the Elyon, so it will be the Ayin of the Yesh Amiti, and under that is Ayin Shesh Nivra. Or you say no, but it's also already memutza, it's already Shaykh to the Tachtin. So you go higher. Then there's in Keser. Keser has two sides, etc., etc. What other dargis he had here? In this mimer he had the two dargis in the kav, right? Pnimis a kav, kitzonis a kav, koidim at simtzum, la'achar at simtzum. What else? In the shayrish of the kav, you have Tiferes Hanelom and Malchus Dein Soif, etc., etc. Where's the biggest gap between these four levels? And this is where it gets interesting. So there's yesh, ayin, yesh. So first of all, obviously, if we're talking yesh ayin, especially yesh ayin yesh, so yesh is all the way on top, ayin's all yesh, and the other yesh is all the way on bottom, so they're the furthest from each other, right? That's what pashas, the first from each other. Le'idach we know, and especially he emphasized this point in the Ma'ameh of Rosh Hashanah. You guys know the Ma'ameh of Rosh Hashanah, especially the end, very reich is there. That dafke the yesh hanivra, what's the two lashonos there? Moira la'atzmus and mechiach es atzmus, yeah. But on the one hand, it's moichiach la'atzmus, meaning there's two dargis here. Moichiach es atzmus is that it proves that atzmus exists. In other words, how do you come face to face with atzmus? How do you recognize? How do you find atzmus? By being forced to say, "Star zayin atzmus," right? By process of elimination, you come to recognize. We don't see atzmus, re'iyah gashmis. But when you come to a certain place and say, there's no other way. The only way this exists is atzmus. So you see the yesh hanivra. Yesh hanivra can't be created by anything else because it's ein le'ila v'siba and be'ergashasei. It feels mitziyosim atzmusoi. That nekuda mitziyosim atzmus doesn't exist anywhere else. Only in atzmus. Only atzmus has that tchuna. So only atzmus could create it. So by seeing yesh hanivra, I know that there has to be atzmus. That's one level. Noch tifer. There's a tiferet nekuda. It's not just that when you see Yesh HaNivra, it proves to you that Atzmus exists. When you see Yesh HaNivra, you're looking at Atzmus in the eye. Why? Because you see in the Yesh HaNivra, you see Mitziyosei Me'atzmusei. Mitziyosei Me'atzmusei is a trait of Atzmus. Kivyoch, you're seeing Atzmus give birth to its look-alike. Right? You're seeing Atzmus express itself in the Yesh HaNivra. So on the one hand, the Yesh HaNivra is so far from Atzmus. Tzacheni, Shreit Atzmus. Ein Arechacha Ba'ilam Hazeh. Dafka Ilam Hazeh brings us panim al panim with Atzmus Yizbarach. Fine. So, right. So on the one hand, it's the furthest from its shayres. Mitzacheni, they complement each other. Nachmer, they're mamish one and the same. Now, to get from yesh to ayin, or from ayin to yesh, is obviously a massive chiddush. We know that the yesh me'ayin is b'chei kaboyre. Right? If all the chachmei, what's the lashon? Kol chachmei olam yavoyu, and try to be boyre a knaf echot shel zvuv, they won't be able to create it. It's only from nothing we can do. That's beyond the capacity of the Nivroim. Only the Nivroim could create yesh me'ayin. So the yesh hanivra comes from the yesh hamit, from the ayin of the yesh hanivra. Even though the ayin of the yesh hanivra is here for the yesh hanivra before it's ayin. Right, but let's see, what's the ayin of the yesh hanivra? If it's the dvar havaya, if it's the chayis alikis in this world, if it's viras hamalchus, the dibur of the Eibishter, whichever way mamar is, whichever way you look at it, we are talking about a spiritual energy that brings into existence a physical energy. Gashmis from ruchni is yesh hanivra. There's need of koyach mafilas to bring the two together. Al derech zeh, the yesh hamiti. The yesh hamiti to the ayin of the yesh hamiti. What's the ayin of the yesh hamiti? You'll be talking about a darga of oir, some level of oir that kol inyoni is legalis atzmusei, an expression of the essence, expression of the etzem. So that also mitzad atzmusei is doch muvdul von out. Right? As Mavur in Chassidus, you can't even call etzem moir, even though it is the moir, but you can't call it moir because it's not mugbal by being, because moir is already an expression. It is a source of light, but the etzem is not a source of light. It could be oir, it could be choshech. So the etzem from anything other than the etzem is completely muvdal. So the etzem to the oir, to the ayin of the yesh hamiti is a massive chiluk, is a massive chiddush. The Rebbe Gemel Geret Barichis in Los Lagani and the Mamor Memhei, that the tzimtzum, that before tzimtzum Rishon there's many tzimtzumim. B is the tzimtzum from etzem to the air legalis atzmusei, which is the greatest. It's a much bigger tzimtzum than the tzimtzumim afterwards. Even though the tzimtzum Rishon is called tzimtzum Rishon and the tzimtzum derech all in yon, but really the biggest tzimtzum is from the point of the pshitus ha'atzmus to any level sense of expression is already a massive tzimtzum because etzem shouldn't have any shaychus to gilui. So in all these levels now, okay, so from etzem. From yesh to ayin, there's a big tzimtzum. From the ayin to yesh, it's a big tzimtzum or a big chiddush, whatever you call it. Now we have the two levels in the middle, from the ayin to the ayin. So here it's like they're second cousins, yeah? First cousins, no. It's ayin to ayin. They're both ayin, they're just two sides of the one coin, like the previous akav, chitzenius akav. But even though in dargeh and the chiddush ha'inyan, l'chayra, there's a bigger gap between the yesh to the ayin and the ayin to the yesh, but in Havana, this is where we get stuck. And the whole arichas in this maimer and other maimarim before as well, but especially this maimer, the etzem comes to address this gap, because that's where we get stuck. What's the shaila? How do you get from the ayin to the ayin? The yesh to the ayin is because mimakiv b'yodi. That's the right? That's Simun Chaf Igeres HaKodesh. Atzmus wants to create Olam Hazeh. So the only one that could create Yesh HaNivra is the Yesh HaAmiti. But even though it comes from Yesh HaAmiti, but he doesn't do it directly. He does it through the Ur. He uses the Ur because all the reasons he explains there. In other places in Chassidus that he wanted that Ishtalshlos, he wanted there should be Ishtalshlos to come to Olam Hazeh. That there should be a Shechus to Ur, and you need a Koyach of Ur, v'chulu v'chulu. I'm not getting into that now. But etzem is doch bli gvul and bli geder. So just like he's Lamaila Migilo, you could also be Nisgal. Yechelis Lahor, Yechelis Shloi Lahor. So inside the Yechelis, you could be made. The ayin of the Yesh HaNivra, Take, the ayin and the Yesh are two completely different places, but I understand how the ayin leads to the Yesh HaNivra because that's the whole point. That's the whole point. The whole place the Yesh created, the ayin of the Yesh HaNivra is Dvar Avaya Shamayim Nasu. The reason why there's Dibur is to give energy, to give chayes. Right? He speaks in the Ma'ir that the Yesh is Dibur, that's even though the Yesh is Machshav. The Yesh is Dibur is Mislabish. Leila Avaya Dvar Chnitzvah Shamayim Mislabish in the Nivroi. So that's how that leads to Nivroim. But the two ayins, where do they meet? They're going in completely different directions. This ayin is like Teva Eish, it's going up. Limkoirei, right? Kol inyon ishrait, einin milvadei, bitul idiot. The other ayin comes and says, I'm on a mission, I have a shlichus. I'm going outward, it's mashpiyah. Get that up. So how each one has their own ayin, like every one of every one of the galaxies has its Kiddush Chodesh. Yeah, each one has its Levana and has its Seder over there. Where do they come together? Number one, in the process, how do they come? How does one lead to the next? And the number two is that's in the end of the Maimer, right? After all that scholar and all there's even yon in the Maimer, there's a to talk about. Every keta here is a whole other sugya. But where does it lead to? It leads to what's das elyon and das tachte, and what's the yesha, ein yesha amiti and ein yesha nivra in avoda, yichudi lo and yichudi tata. Yichudi lo, yichudi tata are two levels of bittul. You takenari bittul leifin klali bittul b'mitzias bittul hayesh. Do you completely not exist? Or du machzich, yeah? Du machzich or du bist, yeah? Okay, so leifin klali, you have two kinds of people. You have some people that live on a level of yichudi lo, some yichudi tata. You have neshamas to biyah and neshamas that's it. But no, because Tachas Aveda is Lamevi Yechod Be'echod to be Miyachid Yichudi Lo Yichud Tata. HaChodesh Zelachem Reish Chodashim Ma Tam Pasach B'Bereishis HaChodesh Zelachem Reish Chodashim Yichudi Lo. Should start with Yichudi Lo. That's what life's all about. The Poyol Pasach B'Bereishis, which is Yichud Tata. Yichud Tata is not Torah. Torah is Yichudi Lo. But Torah wants it should be Yichud Tata. That the Yichudi Laws are Rangin Yichud Tata. Right, and here the Rebbe's mitzayin to the Rebbe brings Kundush Yitzchayim, which is what the Rebbe always goes back to, and this is Betzin one of the biggest Yisayidus and Chassidus, and the Rebbe's Torah B'Frat. The Meve Yechod Be'echod Miyachid Yichudi Lo Yichud Tata. Bittul Mitzias and Bittul Hayesh. Klal Ayin and Yesh. Das Elyin, Das Tachten. So, but the Shaila is, okay, that's what we have to do. And through that, in Sham Sakavan, in Sav Bishbarach, it's like Dira is Yichudi Lo, B'Tachtoinim in Yichud Tata. Avedas tzadikim with Avedas abirurim. Aveda nisis and Aveda tilis. The shaila is, how does it happen? They come from two different tracks. No, Doug? Isn't it? Is that the shaila, yeah?
In Sukkot, doesn't it mention all the Bush Yuchad, Bush about the Seichel, I forgot exactly.
Here also. You finished my Beraishis?
No,
yeah, it's in Beraishis also, yeah.
See, doesn't that answer the Shah a little bit?
That what? No, go on.
That Rebbe explains that the whole idea of Seichel, sharing over the word, that's, it's basically there's two ways. One is this God, one is the koyach to bring out a higher Madrigo. If I was on the Shah, let me just check it here. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm just trying to go through the Maimer, yeah? That's what we're trying to say over
here. He says
here.
the koyach to bring out a higher Madrigo. Say,
Okay. Talk to me in English. Yeah. Or Yiddish. Anything with the words of the Maimon.
Yeah, I mentioned, he mentioned regarding Seichel and Ratzin, so I just want to get that word again.
Yes, let's say a pashtus. Bittul and Mitzias. Right? There's two parts. There's two inyanim was meant by a Yidden. You can't bottle to tell the cost, bottle to Eivishter. And bittul is the side of everything. If you're not bottle, you're not like. What's the taich of elikus? Bittul. If it's not bittul, it's klipper. On the other hand, the Eivishter created the person of yesh and the yesh anivra. Right, at the end of Rosh Hashanah he speaks about this, and Aveda also. That he wants you to use your yes, your mitzias, your seichel, your midas, your personality. So, okay, if you come and say, okay, there's two parts, memont zwei Sachen bei einem Menschen. Memont bittul, memont mitzias. And you have to use them both for elikus. Sa, you have to work on yourself, to mevatel yourself. Sa, you also have to use you don't throw your chushim on the side. You have to develop your talents. Fine. Okay, so there's two parts, Aravad. Which is also hard. Right? First of all, it's hard to be bottle. And it's hard to use your mitzias. And then it's not harder to use them both. The sai be bottle and sai be mitzias. But that's not really where the real struggle is. The real struggle is the yichud. Fine. Parts of the day I daven, parts of the day I learn. Parts of the day Shema Yisrael, and a moment later it's Baruch Shem. It's the lemevi echad be'echad that gets complicated. How do you bring one into the other? The two parts of your day. Person wears two hats. Yeah, he's a family guy and he's a business guy. Two things, two different people. The father could be a teacher, and while he's teaching the kid, he's a kantater. Right? No, I'm wearing a different hat. We always say no. It has to come together. Right. So first of all, in a scholar, that's the way it happens. The yesh, ayin, yesh. There's a process here that the one leads to the other. And then from them to Diktzachais and Avodah, how that same process, right? Where let's say in Avodah, what does he speak? He says there's Rusa Deliba, there's no Mitzias Klal, no Mitzias Yeshes Klal. And then there's Yichud Tata. So he says here an interesting Nekuda. So he speaks, which sif is this in? Where does he speak about this Hisnasus? Yeah, in Sif Dalid. Different levels in Machshava Vana Emloich. So there's a level of Hisnasus, the bottom of page 9 here in the Kivitz. There's Hisnasus Sha'al Azulas, Shal Zenemer Emelech B'Loyam. And then there's Hisnasus Shemitzad Atzmai. Interesting, in the track in Ayin Beis, they learned these Mamorim, he's saying here at Ayin Beis, it's Shvuas Ayin Dalid, speaks there Barichas about, I'm saying here earlier, he's saying to Ayin Gimel, Ayin Dalid speaks about it as well. Isnasus Shalazulas and Isnasus Mitzad Atzmai. Connects it to the two levels of Hadras Melech and, which is Reiv Am, connected to the koyach he gets from the people, and Hoid Melech Bei Choloi. So this says there's two ways how to read it. There's Ein Melech B'Lo Yam, or you read it In Melech B'Lo Yam. In is yeah. Ein Melech B'Lo Yam or In Melech B'Lo Yam. Adoin Oilam Asher Melech B'Terem Kol Yitzur Nivra. Without any Yitzur Nivra, he's a Malach. What are you a Melech on? There's no Yitzur Nivra. Malach. It's Nasos Atzmis, Reimus Atzmis. Leis Nasa v'Cheftzei Keil Azai Melech Shmoi Nikra. When is actually Melech Shmoi Nikra? When is actually a Melech? Leis Nasa v'Cheftzei Keil. When there's actual people there. When there's actual Am. So Pashta Melucha, the way we see it, regular Melucha, as we know it, is when you're ruling over people, right? That's the Midas HaMalchus that we have. We have Eser Koiches, all of us, and the Midas HaMalchus is our ability to, it's Malchus Peh, communication, Dibur, to communicate with others. Especially in the Nkud of Misnasos, Melucha, to lead others, right? There's a big part of the day, a person's in the gather of Mekabel, especially a Bacher is a Sikha Yidu, everybody's must say, Mekabel. But then there's time to Yer Mashpia, yeah? You go on release time. Is that right? And now you're a Melech. So what makes you a melech? What changed? A moment ago, you're not melech, now you're a melech. You're standing there, and you have a whole elam in front of you, or you're communicating with people. You have a tzivul, you're saying things, and people follow what you're demanding. Mr. Melech. So your misnasus, your meluch is built up from the people, from the constituents, from the people that are following. But then there's this nasus atzmis. Remus atzmis is hoid melech. The king is in his chatzar melucha. Nachmar, he's in the armin, he's in his private chamber, his private room. No shaykhs to anything. There's mirum. Right, you have this in Pushbagashmas. You have people that are natural leaders. What's not a natural leader? He never led anybody. Or mizetafem, that he's be'etzem. And a person walks into the room and has a presence. Just by walking in the room. Right? He didn't say anything, no one knows him. He has a certain seer. Right? That's the iskashmus of it. That's the practical side of it. It's very musatzim.
Does anybody who has isnasus on people, when there is crowd, does it mean that he has isnasus also?
So this is the point I'm trying to get to. The relationship or the disconnect between these two isnasus. Not every person that's put in a position of isnasus has isnasus atzmis. Right? And now, because of that, when the isnasus alazulas isn't given to somebody with isnasus atzmis, then first of all, a lot of times it fails. But what side it fails? So the Lashon, he says there in Ayin Beis, there's a harichas there, but the Kudei brings out is the person will always feel challenged. He's never comfortable, right? He's never comfortable because everything, because it's not really who he is. It's assumed. It's fake yeshus. It's fake melucha. So v'meila, anyone that says a psavart or doesn't follow what he says, or right, any little nekuda going on there that's not total bittul, he loses it. Yeah, it's right. Like you can't handle any competition, or not even a competition, even any lack of complete bittul and complete acceptance. Why? Because it's not natural. It's not that it is. So, the kol inyonai of this is nasus is yeshus. It's someone kilu trying to put up the whole persona the blazon, and the famous story of the Tzemach Tzedek that he said why what's tretman after your base medrash v'umegei tretman afdir. Why v'umegei tretman afdir? Because it's somebody that comes in, he has to take up all the space because he's in English he's not comfortable in his own skin, right? It's not natural to him. He's uncomfortable in his whole position. So the whole Indian here is yeshus. And when there's yeshus, so that's the way this nasos is. Isnasos, now, what ends up happening is, who are the people that look for isnasos alam? As a klal, those that don't have isnasos atzmis. Right? Because if you have isnasos atzmis, what's the after isnasos alam? He's a melech. This person's a melech. Sefeltem garnish. Sefeltem garnish. Yeah, in America, the CEOs, if the guy was able to sleep at night without being a CEO, you never become a CEO. Why become a CEO? Because he has to compensate for something. He need a darkness. Right? He'd be an honest worker, doing his thing, providing for his family. It doesn't have to be a whole ganze yacha b'dam in the papers, machin ganze shtun. Then there's somebody that has the isnasus atzmis. Right? Isnasus atzmis hates this. It's the Indian atzmi. It's not about. There's no point of gili here. It's not about what I'm doing. It's not about some melucha on other people. It's be'etzem erumen. Right? It's a certain hecherkeit. Person's hecher. Filtzich hecher. It's not a filtzich hecher von anderen Menschen. That's yeshus. Hecher be'etzem. In other words, there's a roimus. There's a hecherkeit. It's not hecher then something. It's a hecherkeit. It's a lichtig. A person like that doesn't need anything. Chassidus says this is the difference between Malchus David and Malchus Yisrael. Malchus Yisrael was only Isnasus al-Am. Malchus David had Melucha Be'etzem. Which is why you see when Malchi Beis David, you see it by the Rebbeim. Right? They never looked for it. They never wanted it. They always ran away. It was always give it to the brother, give it to a cousin, give it to a shvager, give it to Bichlal, in the Indian. It's not needed. It's irrelevant. What's the point? Right? What's the use here? In Shama Klolis. Right? In Shama Klolis. Be'etzem 9 Beis says that every Yid has it. Be'etzem, this Indian. Be'etzem a Yid is someone, but Ishlein how it works with the psychology of Jewish people with Poil, but Be'etzem inside the Neshama. Inside the Neshama there's an Indian Atzmi. So But Be'etzem, that's who's supposed to be the Melech. And that's the Chiddush of Keser Malchus, the Rambam says. The Keser Malchus was given Dafke to David. The Dafke David and Zerah David, they have Keser Malchus, it says they're Be'etzem Melucha. Which is why no matter how many generations go by where there's no Melucha, they'll come back, right? Yosef Yehuda will end up coming back to Yehuda, will end up coming back to David. If it's all about the rules and the acting Melech, then if your father didn't act as a Melech, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, many days didn't act, some stage you forget what it is. But if it's in Natsmi, it's irrelevant, even if 20 days went by, 100 days, we never had it, but it's there, it's part of who you are. But here's the part. That's what's supposed to be the Melech. When the Melech Atzmi becomes Lepoil, the one that's a Melech Al-Am, is it two different things? Or it's one and the same? In other words, you have people that are Melech Be'etzem that will never be Miskala Al Melech. Yeah? People that know this guy is Mamish, he's Shaykh. He's not interested. He doesn't care. He doesn't need it. Because he has it. You don't need something that you have. Many times the Melech Al-Am, the Melech Be'poil is someone that has no Shaykh as He's constantly trying to be Melech, to have one moment of Hergish of Malchus. But he never gets it. He's always looking for more. And it's two different kinds of Meluchas. This is a Melech, it's Yosed on people listening to him, on enacting his agenda, right? Actually having a Melucha. This is a Melech, there's no agenda, because the agenda is already Al-Am, right? It's Ayin of Yesh HaNivra. It's already connecting to a Nivra, connecting to a plan, to a Metzias. This is Inyatzmi. It's a Shaykhis. That's man Neshama is comfortable. But when this person is chosen and becomes Melech, does he have two parts to him? So we say no. It's not two. He's not playing two different parts. He's not also a Melech Be'etzem and a Melech Be'poil. His Melech Be'etzem is the Melech Be'poil. The Isnasus Al-Am is a different Isnasus Al-Am. Why? Because the regular Isnasus Al-Am, what makes him a Melech? Makes him a Melech is that he's the Ayin of the Yesh HaNivra. What makes him a Melech is the fact that he has a government, the fact that he has Chukim, the fact that he's leading the country, the fact that people are bowing down to him, and that's what makes him into a Melech, and that's what the Malchus is all about. By this person, by the Emes Melech, by Malchi Beis David, when the Melech Beis David goes out to war, or when Melech Beis David, when the real Melech is actually being a Melech, what's he doing? He's expressing his Malchus. He's taking his neshama, he's taking his chayas, his energy, what he really is. He's Betzim Melech, and he's saying, Nadir, here it is. He's been Megal Leini Kol Yisrael. But you have this also in Torah mitzvahs. When he does Torah mitzvahs, is he Ani Beisel Shamash as Koini? So Yid is doing Torah mitzvahs to make a dir b'tachtoinim. So he's here for the Torah mitzvahs, which is here for the vel for the dir b'tachtoinim, which itself is a very, very high darga. But as Chassidus says, dir b'tachtoinim sof is chitzeni saratzim. Pnimi saratzim. Obviously, this is all relative, right? Pnimi saratzim is the Shamas Yisrael. The Etzem of the Eibush is just the Etzem Neshama Yisrael, not for what they do, not for them just being them. The Etzem Neshama of a Yid is the biggest oitzer, is the biggest is Chad B'Tatzmusi Yisbarach. So if that's the case, then what's the point of Torah mitzvahs? So let's get in touch with Primus Haratzim. Who needs Torah mitzvahs? Right, so the Primus Haratzim, it's the whole Shanosh how our Torah mitzvahs comes, but it's the same Nekuda. So it's not that cook. What is Torah mitzvahs? Gala in Shamas Yisrael. A Yid is Chad B'Tatzmusi Yisbarach, and He's expressing it. It's a scholar, right? Like, it's not just in Pnimi hidden somewhere. Your taka a kind. You see, I mean, cooked a kind. You see his father. You see Elikus. You see in Torah mitzvahs. It's an expression of the Yizn Shalom. So if you're looking at the Chitzonius Inyan, so yes, there's the ayin of the Yesh Amiti and there's the ayin of the Yesh Nivra, and they're two completely different agendas. But B'Pnimius Inyan, what's really going on? The ayin of the Yesh Amiti, the ayin of the Yesh Nivra, is an expression of the ayin of the Yesh Amiti. Because what's the ayin of the Yesh Amiti? It's the legalis atzmusik, right? Kol Inyoni is Deivishter. Okay. How does that? How is that niskala? It's niskala by dira v'tachtonim. It's niskala when atzmus yisbarich is niskala do v'tachtonim. In order for atzmus to be niskala v'tachtonim, in order for the isnasus atzmis to express itself in isnasus al am, you need an am, and you need nivroim. So you need in order for nivroim to exist, the ayin can't just stay an ayin of yesh ha'amiti because there's no room for nivroim then. So that ayin kiviyachol transitions, expresses itself into ayin of yesh ha'nivra. The ayin of, right, because it's two sides of one coin. We say primus akaf, chitzenis akaf. Primus akeser, chitzenis. It's always the primus and the chitzenis. It's two sides of one inyan. What's keser? Kesher velikus mitvelt. So there's the matzil and the netzel. The achrin, right? What's the achrin? What's the there? Tachtin matzil. Matzil and reish rishon netzel. Right. So there. So that's how. Right. So that's the what you bring over here. The two isnasus. The two isnasias. That's what happens here. Obedel isnasus is under isnasus. It's under isnasus. You see two people being melech l'mash. They're both doing their act of duty. They're both doing their position. But it's in ganzen gara under Indian. This guy's coming here to prove a point. This guy's coming to be a melech. This guy's coming to megala his malchus. In other races, and this you see in Hamshach Tezvav, in the Mugad Mamar and Pasach Eliyahu, Baruch Shasanisim, there he speaks about this barichas, the yesh ayin yesh. And there he speaks about Lemevi Yechad Echad Yachad Adas Lam Das Tachtin, and there there's many different ways how to approach this. In this time he speaks about the two of his nas. There Lamashal, the sprach there he uses is that Das Elyon and Das Tachtin. This that we look at them as kel deis by two different deis is mitzad the chitzonis, right? L'mayla kasvat and tachlis. It's not the chitzonis. Mitzad pnimis, they're one inyan. They're one inyan. What are they? Ritzoni is barach. Ritzoni is barach. The Eibishter wants vil the Maidan Niketz and her vil Matan Tachlis. And because the Ratzin, probably most of you know the Mamar, because the in of Ratzin is that there's no mitzias, right? The Ratzin is the Giloi of, Ratzin is the, no? Giloi ha'etzem, Hamshachas ha'etzem, that's what Ratzin is, versus all the Keichas, Eichel and Midas that are already a person expressing himself a certain way. Ratzin, here we have this in the first Maimer, more about Ratzin, the Rosh Hashanah Maimer. Ratzin is, Pashat Hamshachas ha'etzem, it's a person, right? I want something. It's I going in a certain tia, just being drawn to something, being pulled towards something. But it's the ganze zich. So because of Hamshachas ha'etzem, so it's pashut. There's pshit is there. There's no place for mitzias here. So even ayin of Yesha Nivra, which the Chayra takes into account Yesha Nivra, it doesn't really take into account Yesha Nivra. We don't really care about Yesha Nivra. The Eibishter wants that I should care about Yesha Nivra. So it's k'il like here, but not. It's the same nekuda. There's a melech, there's a snasus al am. There's actual am here, but it's not about the am. It's about my yisnasus. It's about the yisnasus atzvus expressing itself in yisnasus al am. Right? So it's many different events, different mahimshech, different baruch says the same Indian, different mishalim, bring out the same nekuda. That the ayin of the Yesha Nivra is a hemshech of the ayin Yesha Nivra. Same thing. Avodah yichud lo yichud tata. Avodah yichud lo avodah yichud tata. You have to be miyachad. What's miyachad then? So it starts from the conceptually be miyachad then. Understanding that bitul ayesh is not something different than bitul b'mitzias. Be'etzam al yidz in ganzen batul to Eibishter. You're in ganzen batul to Eibishter. Your whole mitzias is elikus. No. Elikus wants there should be a tachtin, will sein a tachtin. So Mela, so I have a mitzvahs, I have a yeshus, and also my yeshus is here to as part to be misyach with the Eibishter, to be mivatel himself to the Eibishter. So I'm not seeing myself as two different avodas, and how do I bring the two? How do I live with these two different avodas? Or how am I even living at the same time with two avodas? It's not two different avodas. There's one point here. Be'etzem, it's all the ayin shel yesh, it's ayin of the yesh ha'amiti. That's really what's happening. It's l'malis kavanas ha'atzmus.
So that's the answer why there's a big between ayin. How do you connect the ayin of the yesh ha'amiti to the ayin of the yesh?
Because they're really one. On the one hand, right, they're saying on the one hand they're completely two different agendas, but they're both ayin. What is ayin? Ayin is bittul. Ayin is what is. Even though this is the ayin of the yesh hanivra, that's when you're looking at it from the outside. But really, what does it mean the ayin of the yesh hanivra? It's here for the yesh hanivra. Who put it here for the yesh hanivra? The yesh hamiti. They're both coming here from the yesh hamiti. They have a different. This is just the pnimis inyan. This is the chitzonis inyan. Its mahos is snasus atzmis. Its giloy is snasus alam. Das elyon, das tachton. Anybody?
So how is Ayin Shel Nivra das Tachton?
On the pashtos?
Yeah.
Das tachton means that lamata yesh or lamayla ayin. Das elyon is lamayla yesh or lamata ayin. Right? What's your, on a very basic level, what's your sense of reality? Is Elam has a reality, and then from there you're able to understand there has to be a makir, or likus pshitis and Elam is bischachos. That's really what das elyon das tachton is. Right? So ayin shel yesh hanivra, and that's a big chiddush. L'cheira, das tachton exists in this world. We have das tachton. Right? We have two ways. Either a person is alikus pshitis, after ribi limud chassidus and mashke alikus pshitis, or in a regular day to day, reality is what it is: food, eat, drink, breathing, basic elam haza. And from elam haza, we understand there has to be yesh v'avayis b'irazu. But you're asking, that's if we say das tachton exists by us. But how is the ayin of the yesh hamiti das tachton, the yesh haniver das tachton, right? So the Chassidus comes and says, kel deis havaya. Not only das elyon das tachton is the Eibishter's day and our day, kel deis havaya. The Eibishter has 2 days. Das elyon das tachton. Has the Eibishter have 2 days? The Eibishter knows what's reality, the likus. But that's the word of the ayin of yesh hanivra. The ayin of yesh hanivra, because it's here to serve, these mitzvahs its chitzonius, is here to serve the yesh hanivra. Kol yon is yesh hanivra. So if you would sort of ask the ayin shel yesh hanivra, what are you? What do you represent? What are you here for? So the ayin comes and says, I'm here for the yesh hanivra. So its focal point, what it's focusing on, is the yesh hanivra. Lamata yesh, ulamayla ayin. Who's the lamayla ayin? He himself, right? He's the ayin. We're talking about lamayla ayin is the ayin of the yesh hanivra. So he identifies himself as an ayin biyachas to the yesh hanivra. What do you mean? He's a chalikus. But because the purpose of his existence, the yesod of his existence is the yesh. So that's where it starts. And because biyachas to the yesh hanivra, the ayin is considered ayin. Why is it called the ayin? Chassidus explains that it's either because it's a different kind of mitzias, or it's any musik, right? So even though how can you say he says any musik, he himself is masik himself, but because the yesh hanivra is not masik him, so even for himself he's ayin, because he looks at the mirror of the yesh hanivra, see how the yesh hanivra looks at it. But that's also the chitzonis abinim. It's the pnimis of the ayin of yesh hanivra. He's also in the service of the yesh hamid, and he's one direct hemshich of the ayin of the yesh. So you have the yesh, which expresses itself through the ayin of the yesh hamiti, which is then iskala or yoyred lidei mispate through the ayin of the yesh hanivra, which enables the yesh hanivra to be here. But it's all one agenda. It's all one kav. And our avodah is lemev yechad be'echad miyachad yichud ilo yichud tata. Most of our avodah, there's as many sichos. Most of our avodah day to day is yichud tata. But always has to have the shnit, the nekuda of yichud ilo. Without the nekuda of yichud ilo, if you just have yichud ilo, you're flying in the himmel. You're not grounded. Say that you have to learn English, chassidus, davening, right? Doesn't say there yet. But it has to be ogling with the nekuda of yichud ilo. Without that, then you're You're a good guy. You're missing the nekuda. Because when you have the nekuda, it's not like a spice. Tavla, what's the lashon? No, not. If you put in a drop of Yerushalayim, what's the lashon there? A karta, yeah, of tavlin, just a drop. It's not a drop to like give it a taste. The nekuda is, it's the yesoy. Means you understand that the whole yichud itata is mitzad yichud ilah. So I'll say monti yichud ilah.